Hey, what's up, good people? It's Jay Ray, the co-host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
Aha, yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Welcome back. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, also known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. What's happening, y'all?
Welcome to another episode of Q Points, your safe space for meaningful discussion around Black music and the artists that we love. Jay Ray, I've been waiting for this one. I mean, we say that every week, but because I really look forward to our show. But this particular topic tonight is, there's some things that are going to be shared. I'm finally going to be sharing some feelings around groups and epic breakups. I don't know, maybe you can kind of tell which group I might be talking about later on, but
I wonder who.
Just a couple clues as to who I might be speaking about later on. But anyway, how you doing, Jerry?
You know what, man? I am good. It has been, it's a crazy busy time right now. I ain't gonna lie. Things are crazy, but I'm gonna tell you something. I am learning to look at things differently, and that's really, really dope. So I'm happy about that. And two, I actually started watching the Kanye documentary today, Genius. And I really enjoyed the way that was pulled together. And it actually explains Kanye a lot. So we might have to revisit the conversation once all three of these release, because there's some stuff in there that's really interesting.
Do you think this documentary will kind of pull you back into the fold, pull you back into the Kanye fold, as it were?
No, I think no. I think what this documentary actually solidifies is that current Kanye is kind of always been Kanye, and I will share real quick for this is a spoiler alert for those people who haven't actually watched it and plan to, but there's this moment where Kanye so this part is the beginning. So the vision, right? And he takes the camera crew back to his mom's house. That one is amazing. Just watching them interact, and now I understand why she was so important. Well, one, that was his mother, but two, the way she supported him. But there was a moment when she said Kanye has always been a little self-absorbed. And she told the story about when he was 5 and was on top of the sliding board and said, "I don't need you," and just was like wanting to do it himself. Said that to his mom, and she was like, so for her, she was always reminding him about the importance of staying on the ground, being both in the sky and on the ground at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah, it was an interesting moment. So current Kanye is like always been Kanye. He just had some tempering before.
And and I guess this is a perfect way to kind of segue into our conversation about, we're talking about groups and we're talking about fame and money and all the other trappings that come along with that, and what happens when to the person is like those things kind of already expose who you are or magnify and elevate it to another level. So yeah, we're talking about groups, and my first thought around these music groups, and we had this conversation a few shows ago about girl groups and why there are so few, and that music groups are really extensions of family. Like people come together, bands come together, and they create their own family dynamic. So I think sometimes whatever place you hold in your family sometimes may play out in when you go into these bands. And so I guess my first question, J. Ray, if you were in a music group, do you think you would do well? Do you think you would do well in a group dynamic, a music or a band dynamic?
For a period of time, I think yes. I think I am naturally a corraler. Like I would be hopefully one of those individuals that's able to bring like a group together and kind of help us to stay on track. But because I understand people, I would also recognize that it would get to a point where my vision would probably extend beyond that group. And so I would have to go, but it wouldn't be like go, like I'm leaving. It would be more like I got to do this other thing, but I'm gonna roll out on this show, you know what I'm saying, and surprise the people. It would be very that, like it would be very me coming on stage and the people don't know that I'm coming, like sort of thing. But so yeah, I think I would be cool in a group. I think I would be good in that setting. What about you? What do you think?
Honestly, okay, so for those that don't know, I'm an only child. So I think I would do well in a group as long as it was not a group of more than 3 people. I think I connect better with smaller numbers. You know, when you get into big bands, and my hat's off to those bands. Like back in the day, you had bands like the Commodores, Slave, all of those bands. There were a lot of people in those bands.
Yeah.
Parliament, Sly and the Family Stone, who we featured in our promos earlier this week. You know, they had so many people in those bands, and I'm like, can you connect with everybody? Because I think if you make a connection, the more likely you are to stick together, or the more apt you are to work things out. Whereas if you're in a band with more people, like say the bands that I just mentioned, if you're in a larger group, there might be instances where you might splinter off with certain people or gravitate to certain people more than others. And then you have dissension within the group already.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. You know what band I think of? We're not talking about them here on this group, and I'm gonna make a pause. So y'all need to know I looked off because there's like a flying insect. I needed to make sure it's not a bee. It's not a bee. It's like a stink bug. Ugh. Anyway, y'all might see it fly in front of the camera. So exactly. But he done found the light, so I think they good. But no, I was thinking about the Jets. And they were a family band who is also fractured. You know what I'm saying? And that's really like, so you sometimes think, you know, if you have a family band, of course, we know the Jacksons fractured. We know that the Jets fractured. So even in the case where it's like a family band and you like, nah, we family, you know what I'm saying? We'll figure this thing out. It don't always work out. So yeah, when you have a lot of folks, one, that's a lot of personalities to manage, and trying to figure out how to pay everybody what they believe they are worth. It's the way I want to say that becomes a thing.
Yeah, because that gets tricky, I'm sure, because people are going to think, I do more than this person does, or my talent kind of outshines this person's talent. that's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. I think of, SWV. I can only imagine the amount of times Coco was approached and was like, you do all the vocals, you do all the singing. And that for a long time was the narrative. Is like Coco does all the lead vocals. Lily and Taj really don't contribute, but that's not the case. They're quick to say, oh no, such and such can sing. And they have had their opportunities in the past and other projects to make it known that yes, I can sing, and I'm not just as Tamar Braxton would say, a doo-wop pop girl. But we're talking about coming together as a band and having that vision, and then we talked about when the record labels get involved. That vision becomes, they try to inflict their vision on the group.
Yep.
Or try to push their vision on the group. And I think that's a major conflict waiting to happen. Because I don't care what movie it is about a music group, the Jacksons, one of my favorite TV shows is Unsung.
Yep.
And everybody always starts off, oh, we were in a band, we were in school, and we found out, oh, you play keys? Yeah. I play bass. Come on my house. And we jam in the garage. And everybody's so happy. They get into their groove. They find out somebody can write. They find out somebody can sing. And they come together and they have this very organic moment where they become a band. And they create their own sound, But here comes the record label. And then all of a sudden the record label is, you know what? Y'all are really good, but how about you throw this mariachi sound into your group? Whatever, something really random,
right? Where
somebody else has a vision for them, and it's like you understand you want to make it, and you want to get your art heard and seen. So you're willing to give a little so that you can get that label, because there was a time when everybody thought in order for you to make it big, you needed a big machine behind you. So you had a lot of people compromising their vision in order to get a step ahead.
I mean, all of that is so true. Like, I want to go back to the SWV. So I'm now thinking back to our first show. So our first show, we talked about the SWV and Escape verses. And I remember realizing, I had known this, but it was apparent in that verses that for SWV specifically, understanding the group dynamic and how Taj, Lily, and Coco work together. Like, you could see it in play kind of on stage, what that group dynamic was like. And yes, it was like, that's been this pervasive narrative. Coco does all the work. And it's like, well, no, not really, because these other women contribute in this other way. You know what I'm saying? They play this other role. But all of them folks, I think this becomes, so there's like two types of bands, right? There's those bands that, like you described, that come together organically. They met each other, they figured it out. And SWV was like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, figuring out kind of organically how we come together. And then in the case where there are other bands like in Vogue that were literally pieced together, right? Marvelously. Yeah. That was a great group.
Shout out to Foster and McElroy.
Baby, listen, they pulled them women together. And then it's hard, right? So you have that compounding issue. You have labels, managers, agents, etc. It's a pressure cooker. So you always do have to be grounded in, here's why we're doing this. One, here's what makes us dope. And two, why are we doing this? And I think sometimes folks lose sight of that.
Yeah. Like, if you're a new addition, you're lucky to have what's the gentleman's name?
Maurice Starr. No,
not
I'm going to
movie
say
star.
like,
The gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, but he's their manager. He's all throughout the movie. He's played by the guy that was in Paid in Full. He's the guy that's
his
in
name
the
is
video in
escaping me.
the yeah. So you all know who I'm talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
He is that guy.
Yeah.
If you know, he was the constant, the one that had the heart attack. He was the constant figure in their life, even though New Edition splintered off into several different entities and
Right.
successfully.
They
It
did.
must be said they did it successfully. But I think they're the reason, that gentleman is the reason that to this day they can come back and they're able. I think they did a show last night in in Columbus. They did a show last night in Columbus, reunited after all these years. But yes, I think if you have somebody in the group's life to keep them together, that would be super, super helpful, because as you said, when people each member starts getting their own manager, and this one has their own publicist. When the money starts coming in, y'all used to be piled up in a room together,
Right.
Having slumber parties, but when the money comes in, everybody gets their own rooms. And then it just allows for so much for jealousy and a little envy to come in, and people are singled out and start getting the solo star treatment.
Yep.
And I think as soon as you start hearing interviewers asking about, so any thoughts on solo projects, that's the beginning of the end to me. Because it's a seed that's planted immediately. Like, I get it. There are people in groups that stand out.
Oh yeah.
Like Cisco stands out by his stature and the blonde hair.
Right. Like, so I think we all get that happens. And I think where it works is folks understanding the position, right? Like, if even, and I was thinking about this before we got on, I said this to Sir Daniel, I was trying to think of a group that has successfully, and I think New Edition is probably the best example that I can think of, where even though it was real touch and go, and those younger years, because, well, one, you young, you got a lot of money, there's like substance use, there's all of this stuff that's in the pot. But I think now it's dope watching them now be able to still jump on stage together and understand what their legacy is in a very mature way. So I think that's when it's dope. When it's like, no, we could kind of splinter off and do other things, but at the end of the day, our bread is buttered with New Edition. We wouldn't be up here being solo if it wasn't for New Edition.
If it was not for New Edition, I think. So when I asked J Ray the question, I immediately thought of Destiny's Child as being successful. And I think I attribute that mostly to Destiny's Child, to the three who we know as Destiny's Child today.
Absolutely.
To Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle. I attribute that to them going through what they went through, creating a bond that has not wavered over the years.
Yep.
And so being that the people that they are allowed them to look at their sister have this mega career and go to astronomical heights and still have moments where they can come together, and it drives people insane when they come together, like Super Bowl performances and things of that nature. People lose it because they love the nostalgia, and they know that outside of performances that these young ladies are actual friends.
Yep.
Now there are a lot of people that we can't say that.
No, that is so true.
And you can't say that they're, that they hang all the time. Right. But you know what? I get it. There are people that, like we think about our coworkers. Do we want to be around our coworkers all the time?
No.
Absolutely not.
Love you, boo. Right. Love you, boo. But no.
I know I don't. Yeah.
But it's those beautiful moments. And I think one of my favorite things to watch when I need a pick-me-up is watching Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle on the Stellar Awards doing Michelle's song.
Grace?
No,
Okay.
they do a beginning song that I can't remember what it is, but I think Michelle's song was Say Yes or something like that. It was
Yes, when Jesus says yes, nobody
say you can't say no. Yes, yes, yes. And they do that together because of course all three of them are on that song. But what was so dope about it was I'm like, you could just tell like they enjoy each other. Like they enjoy singing together. First of all, them harmonies be like, yeah, kids.
That's work.
That's work.
That's a lot of work.
They know what to listen for. There was that moment where they all come together and they're all like hearing what everybody's doing so they can like slide in right where they need to slide in. But anyway, that's when it's dope. When you like respect the other person that's next to you. And unfortunately, I think when we talk about the four horsemen of epic breakups that we talked about this week, there are sometimes things that get in the way that make sure that doesn't happen.
But, life, things are going to happen.
Absolutely.
The industry itself is going to stress you out. And so that's when you have the dealers that are always hanging around because they want to keep you numb. They want to keep the artist numb. They want to keep the artist high so that they can be manipulated easier. We've all seen that happen. Some people, it's to their demise more than others. Some people just don't recover from that. We were talking earlier this week about Public Enemy.
Oh, yeah.
How for years, I had no idea that it may not have been a beef, but the stress of Chuck D having to manage this image of Public Enemy at the same time having to manage a Flavor Flav, who is, his character is one of somebody who can't be managed.
Right.
I can only imagine the amount of stress, and we talked about the stress it had to have been in order for them to work together. But they made it work. We didn't know, because, now because of social media and whatnot, and because of the information age, we know a little bit more. But we just did not know. I'll never forget when they pointed it out that Flavor Flav, no, I think it was Ed Lover or somebody was doing an interview, and they were talking about the end of MTV, MTV Raps, and how they had all the rappers there, and it was like a big cypher and people performing. And Public Enemy, Chuck D and Flavor Flav were performing, and in the middle of his performance, a crack vial fell out of Flavor Flav's pocket. And so, again, Chuck being, I guess, the fixer, the one that takes care of everything, immediately kind of like snatched it up, and
and nobody was the wiser.
Was the wiser is just so indicative of those family dynamics that we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
But also the amount of stress it puts on a group.
Yes.
Because at some point you're going to be like, I can't deal with this anymore. I can't deal with you showing up an hour late for our show because you're completely trashed. You think everybody's here to see you, but you can barely stand on your own 2 feet to perform. All of those things stress groups out.
Of all the things that I think would be the most, I know that I said that I could be in a group, but if I was in like a toxic group situation, like that would be like exit stage right, like really, really quickly, because it ain't that much money in the world. Like I'm like, I need my peace, and this is not peace. So it's interesting. So we actually, before we got on, one of the things I wanted to do was revisit Dru Hill, because I feel like, right, I feel like I could talk. I have a thing about Shalamar. We'll certainly talk about that. But the Dru Hill thing was so interesting to me because it's funny, like when they first hit the scene, it was obvious that Cisco was like going to be a solo act. First single, tell me it was obvious that Cisco was going to be a solo act for the sheer fact of the tone of his voice, the look, the energy. It was just like, no, you're just bound to be a solo act. Like, it makes sense. I wish they had figured that out sooner and knew that that was the case, because then you can play with it. You know what I'm saying? But I went back and I watched. So on YouTube, y'all. So Dru Hill breaks up. Dru Hill gets back together. This is like 2008. They go to a radio station and they're announcing that they are getting back together. And on the air, they break up because one of the members who was very involved in religion and the church was like, hey, you know, this is, you know, I'm for the Lord and all of this stuff. And then so it was crazy watching Cisco like, what's happening? Like, you're doing this right now. You could have told us this yesterday and we wouldn't be sitting here on the radio. And he left. And you know what? I respected his leaving. Like, you know what? And he just bounced. He didn't get into the fight. Like, it wasn't him in the fight because he had already left the room. He literally said, you could have said this yesterday. I'm out. He got up. His person got up. They left the room. He's on his way to the car. Okay. I'm not even playing this game. And I really respected that. I was like, that would have been me. Like, why am I here? I got stuff to do.
You know, you bring up Woody and that whole, you know, and this is not to negate anybody's beliefs or anything like that, but it's kind of like, you know, that whole, you know what, I've had a realization, I need to change my life and I need to go ahead and stop doing secular music or whatever. It's nothing new. You know, these things have happened. There have been people who have been able to keep one toe in secular and one toe in gospel and do it successfully. And then you have other people who are just like, nah, I need to step away from this completely. Because, you know, the example that I gave today, if you saw the promo today, my reel was Salt of Salt-N-Pepa. She stepped away. She was like, look, this rap music, the secular game, I don't think it's for me anymore. I feel a calling on my life. I feel a calling on my life from God. God is saying you need to do something different. And you know, that's respectful. That's respectable. I think that as we saw, as her group mates said, they didn't have a problem with that. It was the way in which it was presented to them. It was like, oh, I'm out, y'all. I don't want to do this anymore. And done. No words. Nothing. It's like, you know, and then you go on to, you know, you do the Kirk Franklin record and everything seems to be taking off for you. And, you know, there's a whole, Salt has a whole gospel rap album. Like produced, it never came out, but I think you can actually pull it up on YouTube. It's pretty solid. Like Salt was never a half stepper when it came to the art, when it came to making, you know, music and whatnot. So, you know, but I think, again, back to the family dynamics and communication, it's like, I think we've known each other long enough that I realize that this could be very important to you. Can we talk about how we do this without the rest of the group feeling slighted or feeling like they have no other means of taking care of themselves financially? Because this is what we've been doing for 20 plus years. You know, I'm taking care of my family with this. with this entity called Salt-N-Pepa. You know, taking care of my family, and here it is. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and nobody's going to want to, unless it, you know, a group that small. You can't really just have one and not have the other. People are kind of like,
Right.
it's not the same thing. So you can kind of do solo things, but nobody's really checking for y'all as a solo act. They want the group. So I've always found that very interesting, an interesting part of their story. And of course, well, we'll get to that later. Of course, that whole what happened last year. Like I've never
tell us, sir. Talk your ish, Sir Daniel. Go ahead.
So since we're still on Salt-N-Pepa, like I think it's almost been a year now since upon the release of the Lifetime movie, a very public, I don't want to say war, but a very public disagreement happened between, well, not even a disagreement. Things have been completely dissolved between Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella. Like people were wondering. I recall seeing, you know, them on dates, and I would see them, you know, on via Instagram that they would be on dates, and they of course live in separate parts of the country, which is fine. People do that all the time. She would fly in, she would do the date, and that would be it. I don't know. I didn't know about anything personal. But then I started seeing DJ Coco Chanel doing some of their dates, and I was like, what's going on there? And then finally it came to light, the whole thing about Didi Spinderella being X'd out of the group, or not being a part of the group financially, contractually, all of that stuff, because she took ownership of her name. And
smart.
Which was very smart. And then you know, taking ownership of her name, I guess, rocked their world. They didn't understand, they didn't think that was going to happen, because they felt like, well, now we got to pay you. Well, yeah, you got to pay. Right. But so all of that to say, we've had this discussion. I think we need to make a shirt that says we've had this discussion. Right. That's my favorite thing to say. I get it. Cheryl and Sandy, true, very true. It was just the two of them for a minute. Very true. Latoya, who was the very first Spinderella, was added. She didn't make it. She was no longer there. Didi did come along, and as a diehard Salt-N-Pepa fan, I have to say, Deidre solidified that group. You know, it was a great mix at first. It was a great mix with just the two of them. But Deidre there's a magical power in three women. And so it just made sense. All three of them became a part of us as a culture. And we saw three. That's what we're used to. And I think, although I get Cheryl and Sandy's, you know, why they did it at the time, I get it. I understand the history. I get it. I think it might have cost them some cultural currency, which is the term we say it cost them some cultural currency, because it kind of, you know, the hood was kind of like, oh, that's messed up. The hood was kind of looking at the side eye. I get y'all doing, you know, y'all can do tours and New Kids on the Block, and I get those other people don't know y'all like we know y'all. Right. Right? And so, yes, you'll still get your coin over there. But the hood is kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of dirty. And to me, as a lifelong fan, it hurt. It really did hurt. It was hurtful. It sounds like a huge exaggeration, but it's kind of like seeing your parents fight and you know, split up. You know, your family is literally being rocked and torn apart. Yeah. And so, because all those memories are connected to that vision, to that image of three people. So I just, you know, that's how it felt emotionally. You know, the other side of my brain was like, I get it, it's business. But, you know, there's an emotional part that this music game has on us as fans and, you know, people who enjoy the culture.
Yeah. fully nothing to disagree with there. I do think so. One of the early things that we talked about so this is behind the curtain for y'all who are watching. One of the early we were almost called cultural currency or something to that degree. Remember, we were like floating culture. Yeah, we were floating with this idea because Sir Daniel felt so passionate about what was happening with Salt-N-Pepa. So that was actually an early conversation that we were having that led to Q points, right? So I want to just hold that up as that moment in hip hop history birthed this show for the most part. Like, it's here because of what we were watching happen with Salt-N-Pepa. I think about so emotionally, I think emotional is a hard word, but I was negative. I was really upset when Gangstar called it quits. So here's why. Listen, Guru and Premier were just all of what I loved about hip hop to me. You know what I'm saying? And I was trying to think of, like, is there a group that was like, oh, when they broke up, that bothered you? And Gangstar was it. And I was always hopeful that they would find their way back to each other. Of course, that did not happen before Guru passed away. And then watching what happened to Guru's career was so weird to me. Like, it was so strange because I had come through the Gangstar era and the Jazzmatazz stuff, and I had an idea of what this man's career would do, and then it went completely left with all that stuff that was happening with Solar. So it was interesting. So I was upset about the breakup, and then I was upset about how this legacy was getting tarnished by the products that were being released after. Meanwhile, of course, Premier goes on to produce for Christina Aguilera and become who he is today, and I'm happy for that. But yeah, that was a group that means a lot to me, and their splintering was something. Yeah.
I feel that, and what just hit me, what came to my mind was watching A Tribe Called Quest documentary, and watching them go at it was it was jarring. Watching Tip and Fife fight was jarring to me. I don't know what it was. I just was like, this is a lot of energy, and it just did not feel good to me. But again, it's sociology. It's how people relate to each other, and the family dynamics, things happen, and we as the audience kind of are like, oh, okay, what are we gonna do? Yeah, Corey's. Corey, welcome, Corey. Thank you for tuning in.
What's happening, brother?
For your comment, it's very devastating to watch these groups. But you know what? I want to throw a curveball, throw something in the mix here. We've been talking about different groups that have primarily been gender specific, like En Vogue, all women, Salt-N-Pepa, all women, Dru Hill, so on and so forth. But when you mix it up, like Shalamar, the Fugees. If you talk about, whenever you see a group that has 2 guys, 3 guys, and 1 woman in the mix, you always know that the spotlight is going to be put on that woman. And for some people it works. Like Gladys Knight and the Pips, we don't
those know. Are brothers. Those are brothers. So it's like,
that's family,
right?
But when we look at Shalamar and how Jody Watley and Howard Hewitt can't even, I don't know. That's good. That last video that Howard I don't know.
I don't know, bruh. The Fugees. Those, you know what, thinking about, I didn't even think about them. And that's crazy because, you know, of course, we just got the cancellation of the tour, which didn't surprise anyone, right? If you were surprised, I have a bridge to sell you in Alaska that you need to hit a brother up. But, you know, revisiting the Shalamar thing, we don't know, you know, because we kind of got an idea from the unsung of what Jody was kind of dealing with in terms of that group. But we don't know all of the things, right? Like, we don't really have an idea of all of the things, but we know that whatever that thing was really painful. And baby, listen, she worked that career. Like, that woman went and won her a Grammy and gave us classic after classic after classic, and is still killing it.
Her first going out.
Wow. Like, her first record was like, it's like a bona fide classic. I always go back to that, you know, Real Love is just the best first single drop from a second album. If you're going to drop something, drop this, okay?
Exactly.
So,
how you gonna do it.
And show them how you're going to do it, right? So, I think when you have this dynamic, and we saw it, of course, with the Fugees, we know, or we've heard stories about how the relationship between Wyclef and Lauren was, you know, challenging at best. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because of whatever that relationship was. I don't want to get into rumors and all of that. But, you know, whatever that thing was drove Lauren to where she is today. Mm-hmm. And that's deep. That's deep.
It's funny how those things, it's funny how money changes the situation. But it's funny how the things, they get super messy when you have a co-ed group. Like, take City High.
Oh, dear God.
Now, it just came to me now. That was messy.
Yeah.
Because they even had babies with each other. It was crazy messy. And it was like, can that happen? Can you put people in such close proximity with each other all the time, working hours, long hours with each other, traveling with each other? You know, can you just can't have a strictly platonic work relationship? Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think, has there been other co-ed groups that successfully did it without anybody? I mean, if you got
Diggable Planets.
Point.
Yeah.
We never heard anything about Mecca. Matter of fact, they're all happily with their families.
Exactly.
And they're able to come together and have dates and like perform and have a good time.
Yeah.
So Diggable Planets is a great example.
You know, and I do
messy.
Right. And I think it does depend. I mean, you know, and this also, I mean, there's probably reasons why, you know, some of those things work, right? Like how people come into the group, how people, you know, what that is, you know what I'm saying? The Fugees thing, the Shalamar thing is what it is. Like at this point, it is what it is. One, I mean, they haven't been on stage together in probably like 40 years. Probably since like 85. So we're getting like 37 years. We're getting close to 40 years, right? So, but that Fugees thing was like, damn, this was supposed to be a thing. When we were just talking about the score last week, right, on social media, and thinking about, oh, damn, this was their last album. That's crazy. So yeah, man, group dynamics, and which brings us to In Vogue, which is such an interesting situation because they were brought together.
Manufacturing goes, yeah. Well, you look at TLC. TLC, for all intents and purposes, was manufactured.
They were manufactured too.
But they again, I don't know if it's because it was only 3 of them, managed to form a bond,
right?
And a bond that did not, nothing separated them except for their own personal issues and whatnot. But they still had a bond.
They still had a bond. Yeah.
But again, I think with En Vogue, there's one particular person that seemed to always have issues, no matter what. And here's the thing: no matter what damn group she is, there's a problem. And it's not just groups; it's television shows, reality shows. So I'm saying, but I'm not saying. But you know,
real talk, like. Baby, you've been like doing a thing everywhere you've been at, like, but that I think we should just love on. Well, one, it's funny to think about this. So when we think about Michelle Williams, I was talking about this recently. I was like, Michelle is more Destiny's Child than the other two women, because she's been in the group longer. Like, she is, for all intents and purposes, Destiny's Child. So when we think of Rona Bennett, it's the same thing. Rona's been in the group longer than all of the other people were in the group. Like, she joined in like 98 or something crazy. Like, she's been in the group for like a really long time. So, we have, I might be fudging. When did Set It Off come out? No, that was probably about, 90, yeah. Was that?
95.
95? Okay. 95. So, yeah. So, En Vogue is such an interesting case where it's hard. I do think it's harder if you don't bond and you're manufactured. You have to do your management team got to be doing like team building activities.
Constantly. Y'all, let's do the trust fall right now.
Right
now. Everybody, let's do the trust fall. Yeah, and maybe those are things that people, again, but I think we've had this discussion about the lack of A&R and people that are there to actually mold a group and see it completely through and see people create a legacy. Mm-hmm. A good A&R, a good manager would do things like that. Say, hey, let's do stuff to bond as a family, because if we're going to sound better, we're going to look better if we are a family, if we're one unit. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. Is a lot of these places. I don't know. I can't even think of modern groups now that aren't manufactured. That I mean, there's a few. Kipper's working with.
Oh yeah, the Black Betties. They're sisters.
Black Betty.
Yeah.
They're sisters.
They're sisters. Yeah.
So when things like that come along, I really want the groups, if any groups are watching, I really want y'all to work on that aspect, that thing that brought y'all together in the first place, not to let anybody take that away from you, and to build on that, because the money's going to come. I'm sure people are already talking in your ear about who needs to have a solo. Oh, you don't need those others. They're going to be, It could be so much better, the legacy that you all create, if you stick together. It's just my opinion.
No, I agree, Sir Daniel. And I think, y'all, listen, if it's not toxic, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's a situation where you're earnestly like, this is a situation that is toxic and I need to get out of it, cool. If it's not toxic and it's not impeding on your ability to accomplish your goals, right? It is in everybody's best interest and your pocket's best interest to figure it out in some way, shape, or form. There's one group who over the years have done this successfully, and that's the Rolling Stones. I always go back to them. Listen, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards don't rock with each other, y'all. Like, they don't rock with each other. but they will get on that stage. Well, not now, because they are effectively like, that's not a thing that they do. But they did for a really long time get on these stages to just be the Rolling Stones. This is what we're doing. I don't see him. If it's not sound check and it's not rehearsal, I don't see him.
So it can be done. To J. Ray's point, it can be done if your legacy is important to you.
Ooh, you better speak that if your legacy is important. And honestly, y'all, especially talking about like Black artists, that's where it is. Like, these legacies are so important. There are so many things that you can do. And start now. So for those groups that are thinking about like, here's what I want to do, here's what we're thinking about, like, start now. Like, be what's going to happen when somebody drops your record 30 years from now. Like, what are we planning for when that happens? Because that's your legacy, man. Somebody going to drop your record. I don't care if that record wasn't a hit. I got so many records over here that ain't what nobody's hit. People probably ain't heard some of these joints, but guess what? I heard it and I liked it, and I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna play it again. It's your legacy. Keep it together.
That's why I know y'all thought this was gonna be like really salacious and gossipy. You know, we go the other way. We really try to figure out what would people think and what are the influences to these kind of instances where the groups break up. And you know, again, J. Ray, we're trying to keep this Black culture together and keep people's legacies, because we want to still be talking about y'all years from now. So J. Ray, please let the folks know how they can keep up with this, because we got a lot of great stuff coming. I know I got some stuff coming.
You do? Oh, I can't wait till you announce that. So several things. One, thank you so much, Corey. Corey, who we just put it up. Corey is the founder of the Black Podcasters Association. Make sure you get down with the Black Podcasters Association. If you're a podcaster and you're listening, go to blackpodcastersassociation.com. You will be appreciative. You will want to do that. That's all I'm saying. So there's that. So shout out to them. Shout out to us. I'm actually part of the group. So couple of things. Starting next week, this is super exciting. We have a 4-part series, y'all, that we are doing. Isn't it great? On the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So there are 4 Black artists that are up for nomination this year. We have Fela Kuti, A Tribe Called Quest, Lionel Richie, and the Dionne Warwick. And so we are going to be spending the next 4 weeks talking about the careers of these folks who are up for nomination. And we are also encouraging all of our folks who watch Q Points to go and to vote. You can vote for up to 5 people. So we just gave you 4. So we gave you your 4 right there.
Campaign trail, y'all. We are on the campaign trail.
We doing this. Q Points. Exactly. These people need to be in, and Q Points going to get you there, right? So there's that. So we're excited about that. So what you should do is make sure that you become a Q Points Insider on our website. Go on over to qpoints.com, become a Q Points Insider. Make sure that you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. We would really appreciate it. And you can leave us a review over there. And there's this website called Podchaser. What's dope about Podchaser is you can also rate us and leave us a review over there. But what's really cool is those reviews and those ratings go to like all of these other apps. So it really does help out the show. So we encourage you to go on over there and rate and review Q Points, and you can discover other podcasts over there. So one of the things that they also do is there's lists. There's so many podcasts out there, Sir Daniel. Like, there's so many. And
every day somebody's starting a
podcast. So one of the things that you can do on Podchaser is it will help you to discover new shows. So please go on over there. But yeah, that's all the stuff that you can do. And definitely look out. Starting next week, we're going to start our Rock and Roll Hall of Fame series. And we want y'all to come and hang out with us.
Absolutely. But listen, we're not going to hold you any longer. My good people, what do I always say in this life? You have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I am Sir Daniel.
And I'm J Ray, y'all. Peace.
This has been Q Points. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Peace.
See you soon.